It's your boy Aquino Ladisu
And Chuck T's.
and welcome to another episode of Driving While Black. Thank y'all for riding with us. We in beautiful Southern California, Los Angeles to be exact.
La La Land.
What's up, Chuck?
What's happening, Akeem?
How you feeling, brother?
I'm good, brother. No complaints on my end. How about yourself?
Man, I'm blessed and highly favored. The sun is out. You know, it's getting a little warmer. It was hailing yesterday.
The weather's playing around, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was
climate
warm,
change.
and then it's cold, and it's raining.
This
and
global
it's windy.
warming, it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild, man. But we are here. Again, thank y'all for riding with us thus far. This is actually the 10th episode,
Hey,
man.
number 10.
Number 10.
Hey.
Round of applause, man.
Nice little milestone.
Yeah, nice little milestone. It felt like, I thought 10 would breeze by, but it felt like it kind of took a little bit.
Yeah, that's 2.5 weeks or 2.5 months.
Yeah, especially because I thought we was doing them every week, so I thought it would be like no problem to hit 10, but it took a little bit.
Yeah. It was definitely a grind.
Yeah, it was a grind, but we here, we moving forward, we thriving and striving. So it's the 10th episode, but if you're just tuning in or if you've been here from the beginning, regardless, we want to reiterate what we're all about. We are a platform to speak to our black and brown communities and our black and brown people, talk about some of the immediate issues, trauma, grief that we're facing, and kind of work through it, have that conversation and use it as, use this platform as a therapy in a sense.
Yes, sir.
And, we also want to celebrate our black and brown people because we are doing amazing things in our communities and we are thriving and striving. So that brings us to a segment we are really excited to bring to you guys. We've kind of introduced it, but Thriving While Black.
Thriving While Black.
Thriving While Black. And this is a segment where we talk about black and brown people in different spaces, various spaces, whether it be, ownership, business ownership, whether it be in education, investments,
finance, tech,
the arts, anything, just thriving and striving and living their best lives and doing something positive for themselves and their communities. So with that being said, I wanted to highlight my homie's clothing brand. It's called Evolve the Label. He just started this, I think, last year sometime. He's been...
Okay.
So this is a sweater I caught from him. It says "No Fake Love" with a little droopy heart here. On the back, y'all can't see it, but it's a big droopy heart here with love spelled out and the definition of love.
Fake love, that's a Drake bar.
No fake love, that's a Drake bar. So I just want to salute him. He is definitely putting out some dope pieces of clothing. And he's been doing it consistently for a little minute now. And, he's just, he's doing something positive in the community. And he's been dropping different collections that have just been hard. Just
nice.
super dope clothing.
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, again, it's called Evolve the Label. They're on Instagram, all that. His name is Wes, so shout out to Wes. And what I love about Wes too, man, not only is he offering dope clothing, but he's just giving, inspiration to people that, are new entrepreneurs, new business owners. And he's just dropping jewels and dropping gems and bringing good vibes. So shout out to Worldwide West. Go follow him on the gram and go follow Evolve the Label and cop you something nice, man. This hoodie's nice quality. I like the colors. So yeah, shout out to West. Shout out to Evolve the Label. And I want to say too, support black business, support small business, but most importantly, support black businesses. Gucci, Louis, Prada, all that's cool.
Stop giving them your dollars.
But man, these companies, these big ass companies, we've been giving them our dollars for hundreds of years, and they're not really supporting our communities like that.
Not at all. And just to mention off those names, those companies you just mentioned, Gucci, Louis, and Prada are those folks' last names.
100%.
So you're supporting their family business by buying those products. So all you out there that are your own, that have your own business and is selling a product or a service, we want to build y'all last name up. We got to be the new Gucci, Pradas, and Louis. We got to stop feeding their families and sending their kids to college. And we got to put our own kids through college and put our own kids in a situation where they can have their own and own their own.
1,000%, because we've already done that, right? They have their generational wealth cemented, right? They're able to put generations of kids through college, university, what have you, and pass down that wealth and that inheritance. So man, let's keep our dollars in our communities and start building up our small businesses and our black people ultimately.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So yeah.
It's crazy because I've just thought about that. I read something somewhere where they said $1 circulates in the black community. I want to say it was something absurd like 12 seconds or 12 minutes.
I think it's a few minutes.
Yeah.
I think it's minutes.
Yeah, so we go to work, we get a paycheck from whatever corporation, and literally we already have a plan to go be a consumer with this money. So it's not any investment base. It's not bettering our future. It's like, oh, let me go buy those J's. Oh, let me go buy this. Let me go spend money on Gucci. I want a $500 Gucci belt today.
Yeah, and it's not only let me be a consumer and spend on liabilities, but let me go outside of my community and spend with other cultures. And other cultures don't do that. They said, I think in certain communities the dollar circulates for like weeks within their communities.
Exactly.
For example, Asian communities, you have nail stores, you have food places, you have
they have their own banks.
They have convenience stores, they have banks, they have malls, they have different businesses where they have no problem, shopping within their communities and keeping that dollar in the community. Whereas, like you said, it's like 12 minutes within our community.
Right, and it's not that, specifically the Asian community doesn't have a problem, circulating their dollars within themselves. They refuse to spend their money with other people.
Right.
Because they know the value of bringing people and keeping the dollar within their community. They understand that value, and that's something that our community needs to understand. Right,
because it's as simple as, if I put my dollars into my community, that's only going to benefit me and my family. Mm-hmm. Because my community ultimately is going to provide me with what I need and what I like and what I want, and they're going to look out for my best interests. So the fact that our dollar doesn't stay in our community is part of the reason why our best interests are not, taken care of.
Exactly.
And that brings us to today's topic. This is something new that we're doing, that we're very excited to do, and that we want to keep doing. We're breaking down a book, and today's book is Powernomics. Powernomics, very powerful book by Dr. CLAUD Anderson.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And just off the rip, while we're talking about this, one of the things that stuck out that he mentioned in an interview I watched with him on the Breakfast Club, go check it out. He basically said we have to buy black because we're literally imposing poverty on ourselves by not doing so. Mm-hmm. If we have black people that are starting businesses and that are small business owners, and we're not supporting them with our dollars, that business is ultimately not going to last.
Yep.
Because there's other groups of people, other races of people, other communities are not necessarily going to support those businesses. So it's up to us to support and uphold these businesses and make sure they're thriving. Because no one else is going to make sure we're good except for us.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
And to speak on that, I remember reading something in the book, and that has something to do or pertains with what we brought this topic under, and is, circulating our dollars within our community. And in this book, Dr. CLAUD Anderson had a quote, and his quote, I guess, pertained to experience that he had, and he saw a brother go into a convenience store, a black convenience store, and he went to go buy ice.
He said white ice is colder.
He said white ice is colder than black ice.
Yeah,
so he went to the black convenience store, went to go buy the ice, looked at it, put the ice back, walked across the street to the white convenience store, and bought their ice. And then he asked them, well, why didn't you just go buy ice from the black store? And he goes, oh, well, I like their ice better.
He said it's colder.
Yeah, white ice is colder.
And it was the same exact ice. It was the same brand, same packaging, same everything. But for some reason, he didn't want to, even though he was already in the store, didn't want to support the black business, walked right across the street to support the white business and said, the white ice, the ice over there is colder.
You know, and that just goes back to the mentality where once the black community kind of integrated, we kind of gave up ownership of our own companies, our own businesses. We integrated socially and lost ownership.
Yeah.
You know, and situations like that where white ice is colder than black ice, that very situation, if all you had to do was buy ice from the black store, and we'd have been good. You know, maybe
Right.
that company could have still been in business over time, but for some reason, when integration happened, we just decided to spend our money with white people and not black people, and we just kind of eventually just kind of went that way.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, and in this book, this is kind of details how we need to forget that mentality and go back to black, go back and supporting our own.
Right. And I think this book was written in what, 99? It was
it in 99?
Or 2000, but it's basically a 5-year plan to get black people to get them in a better economic state and to have more power in this country and control more resources and have more political power. So he wrote this around 99 or 2000, and the plan was to achieve this plan by 2005.
Right.
And you know, I know we were talking about shopping black and buying black, and I think nowadays we have switched our mindset, and entrepreneurship and ownership is a hot topic, and people are seeing the value in owning a business. But he mentioned, even though we have to do our best to support black business, he's like, there's not enough black businesses. There's not enough black businesses to serve the black community.
Right.
Which is in part why we have to go outside of our communities, which is unfortunate. But again, I think we're in a place now where we realize what needs to be done. We realize the value in ownership, in regards to financial freedom, and we're making those strides and we're making those steps. But yeah, I would say support black business, but also, man, start a business. You know, start a business, get some ownership, and you know, try to create some wealth for your community, for yourself, and for your family.
Right. You know, somebody broke it down to me very simply one day, and they were like, all right, well, you know, you make how many hours a week do you work? Okay, 40 hours times this much money. Okay, you're making this much a year, right? Okay, well, if you start a business, sell a product or a service, for example, you had a $50 product or a $50 service, and you sold that service or product 1,000 times. What do you come out with?
Yeah.
Versus this wage and these hours you work.
Yeah.
And when he broke it down to me like that, and just the numbers aspect, I'm like, damn, if I created a product or a service for $50, I sold it to 1,000 people, that's 50,000.
Right.
Or I'm going to work umpteen thousand hours throughout the year to make that same amount of money at a corporate job.
Right.
You know, so it's just the mentality and the mindset just to switch and realize that we have the power to create our own wealth.
1,000%. Just to piggyback off your point, working a corporate job is great, but that alone is not going to set you up for financial freedom. It's not going to set your family up for financial freedom. You don't necessarily have to be a full-time business owner or entrepreneur, but you have to take your dollars and invest in assets.
Yes.
Historically, as a community, we make a lot of money. We are earners, but we then take our dollars and we don't spend within our communities, and B, we just consume. We consume and we consume and we consume. And Dr. Claude Anderson starts the book off by saying, you know, desegregation, when, you know, they ended, you know, Jim Crow and segregation, and they wanted to integrate black people with white people. He said it shouldn't have been about that. It should have been about redistribution. It should have been wealth, power, and resources. It shouldn't have been about commingling and integrating with white people. It should have been paying black people back for the wealth that they've built within the white community and this country.
Essentially, yep.
And putting them on equal footing to attain some of that wealth. And I think we were so concerned, rightfully so, right? Concerned with being treated as a human being first and foremost, right? We were so concerned with, just integrating with white people that we didn't focus on asking and demanding resources to be self-sufficient.
And then to a point, because of, the slavery being, wiped out, we go into Jim Crow segregation. You could say most black people didn't have the knowledge to be like, okay, well, how do I build my empire now?
Right.
Because they're kind of left in a position like, all right, now that I don't work for you, like my father's fathers always worked for Mr. John. So now that I don't work for Mr. John, where do I work? What do I do? So I think they had the mentality of, like you said, they wanted to be accepted, they wanted to be liked, they wanted to be treated as equals, and they gave us that. All right, we'll treat you equals by law, quote unquote, but while we do this, we're still taking the wealth from you in a different way.
And we've already taken it, so yeah, you can integrate and be part of society, but we're already light years ahead of you economically.
We're already hundreds of years ahead of you.
To where, okay, yeah, you can use the same bathrooms, you can come into our restaurants
and spend your money,
but you're not gonna catch us economically. We're light years ahead of you guys. We're already occupied the political spaces, right? To where we ultimately control.
We dominate every sector.
We dominate every sector in regards to economics, in regards to politics. We have all the resources. So you guys are equal, but really not.
Yeah, equal as what, a citizen?
As a citizen. But in regards
economically, you're nowhere near equal.
Yeah, when it comes to power, dominance, and economics, you are inferior. Unfortunately.
And clearly they were cool with that. They're like, hey, I can see you in a grocery store and smile at you and say hi, but I'm still moving to my big house and my white picket fence in my middle class, upper class neighborhood, and you're still gonna go back to the hood and still struggle.
Right.
But I said hi to you, I was nice.
Right.
We're sociable now.
Right.
But economically, power, resources, generational wealth is non-existent.
Right. And he talks about how kind of the end of slavery and Jim Crow, and now we have, we're integrated in society, and we have, these structures in place. We have the judicial system, we have, our educational system, we have the political system, right? But it's like, how can we expect the same people that enslaved us for over 400 years to then, within these systems, still give us, still treat us as equals? And that's why we see a lot of racial disparities within the judicial system. In an interview with Dr. Claude Anderson, he said the Supreme Court is the most racist institution in this country. He's like, when a black person gets killed in the street, it goes to the justice system, it goes to the Supreme Court, but those systems and institutions are there to uphold racism.
Right. And you think about it, they say legalese for a reason, because law is a completely different language. Majority of black folks, especially during that time, didn't have the language of law, didn't know the language of law. They didn't speak legalese. So yeah, you're equal, you're free, quote unquote, but when it comes to getting into the Supreme Court, whatever situation happened, you don't speak this language. So now we will control you and decide your fate through a language that you have no idea about.
And even if you do speak it, not enough black people occupy those spaces to make any changes to it or influence it in any way. So it's literally dominated by white people. And whether they're racist or not, the actual people within the system is racist. So they're operating within a system, a racist system. So whether they're racist or not is irrelevant.
Right, it doesn't matter because the system was created in a time where racism was at its highest and its most prevalent. So these laws were created around the landscape of racism.
Exactly. And if we are not there to show empathy or understanding or compassion for people that look like us that enter this system, and it's just people that have no understanding of our plight, of our suffering or our situation, we're not going to see justice. And that's what he talks about, Dr. Claude Anderson talks about in this book, is the fact that, white people have created this system and they dominate the system in regards to the players within the system that occupy it. So it's not for us. It's to uphold their privilege, uphold their whiteness, and uphold their power.
Well, let's be honest. Of course, they came over here and created this system. Slaves were the product. So slaves were traded on the stock market. So they were already in the system buying and selling before we even had the concept of it.
Right.
We were a part of the system.
Yeah.
And as far as being an item to be sold.
Yeah, we were a tool to amass wealth.
Yeah, I think I heard it in a quote. It's like, would you rather pay a worker $300 a month to do a job, or buy a slave $300 one time and have that job for his lifetime?
Right.
And it's like, financially, yeah, I'm gonna purchase a slave because it's legal, and spend $300 one time, and he's gonna work the rest of his life.
Yeah,
it's a better investment.
Right. Yeah.
Based on the system.
Right.
So it shows you the system has no regard for human life.
Right.
It used human life.
Right.
So when people say the system is racist, that's a true statement, because the system has been here, and the system perpetuated racism, even economically.
1000%. And so we wanted to break down the first chapter because there's a lot of information. And what I like about this book, he's offering kind of step-by-step solutions to a lot of in regards to the racism that we face and the injustice that we face and that we have been facing. So it's by no means a book about, quote unquote, playing the victim and complaining and waiting for kind of a handout. He's actually putting the power back in our hands and saying, hey, we can't wait on these people to look out for our best interests, because the system's designed to maintain the status quo, to keep them in power, right? They're not going to relinquish their power to us.
No, not willingly.
That's never going to happen. So in this book, he gives kind of a play-by-play on how we ourselves can become self-sufficient and be competitors in this capitalist country, in this capitalist world. And I find it interesting. So he brings it back. He kind of defines race and how the word race and racism even kind of emerged. So he says it emerged in the slave practice in the 16th century. And I'll just read it because it's kind of, it's pretty layered.
Read it straight out the book.
So he says the word race first appeared with the emergence of the slave practice in the 16th century. Records indicate the word race was selected because the various European slave trading nations were in a contest competing to profit from the mineral and human wealth of Africa. The prize for winning the race was the power to develop Western civilization using the wealth extracted out of Africa. And this is where it gets deep. He says, black people were not competitors in the race. They were the prizes. So they could neither play nor win.
That's deep.
That's deep. So he's basically saying, wow, that's deep. That's deep. The word race comes from, or he said it first appeared within the slave trade, and the word race comes into play because it was a race for economic gain and profit from the mineral and human wealth of Africa.
So they kind of used the word race and played on it.
Yeah.
So they used race as a literal race to obtain the wealth from Africa, the mineral resources, to build up Western civilization. Also saying race that white people, we're going to be the first ones to do it. And we're going to use and take from black people and actually use them physically to build up the Western civilization.
So, and whoever won that race won the prize of black people and using them as slaves to build up Western civilization. So we were never included in that dynamic. We were literally the prize.
We weren't in the room when that was discussed.
And we were the tools to create that wealth. So we all know this. We, black people, this country was built on the backs of black people.
Yeah, so they were taking the minerals and we were the hammer and nails to get it done.
Right. So then when we talk about ending Jim Crow and ending segregation, it should be about, all right, now we built this country. You guys have amassed these large amounts of wealth. It's not enough to just say, yo, y'all can eat at our restaurants.
Y'all can partake in what you
y'all
built
can
now.
partake in what y'all built. No. We need the money. We need the resources.
We need the information.
We need the information. That makes us whole. Just saying we can exist doesn't make us whole.
No. Because now we're just wanderers. We're just trying to what do we do? What is this?
Now we can't build generational wealth for our families the way white people have.
The way they did it, yeah, because we don't even have the knowledge to know where to start.
And it's like we live in an information age now, so now the knowledge is there. It's accessible for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. But they've had it from the beginning. So they've been able to, he talks about whiteness being a stored wealth because it's built in through their investments in stocks, in bonds, in real estate, in life insurance, in inheritance. Mm-hmm. They're literally light years ahead economically where they're able to pass on their stored wealth to their family members.
Yep. Like, just imagine if even from the 60s, say 2 generations, removed ahead of us, even if our grandparents and great-grandparents said, all right, as soon as your kid is born, life insurance policy. Off the rip.
Right.
He's born, life insurance policy.
Stocks, bonds.
That would already put us in a better situation today.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Did our ancestors know that? Did our grandparents know that? Probably not.
Or did they even have opportunities to partake?
No. I know specifically for me, my grandfather didn't even learn how to read till he was 20 years old.
Yep.
So if he didn't learn how to read till he was 20, I'm pretty sure he didn't know, okay, well, let me get my kids an insurance policy and let me invest in these, it wasn't even there. It wasn't even in the scope.
Right.
So if that was just for my specific situation, I could imagine the other 40 million.
Yep.
So
he talks about, and what we want to make clear as well is I know people out there would be like, well, you're playing the victim, and I know a lot of affluent black people. There's a lot of black people doing well because they pull themselves up by their bootstraps and they were able to, hustle and get the information. We're not talking about people's, and this book is not talking about people's individual situations. It's about an entire race of people that have been marginalized historically in this country. And because of that, a group of people that was marginalized and created a wealth for another group of people, for white people, and because of that are now at the bottom in regards to economics and power and resources, right? So it's not about one or two or three or whatever families that are doing well. It's about a race of people that are literally at the bottom of the totem pole and are below the poverty line. Right. So he talks about, he says a quote here, he says, although a handful of black entertainers and sports figures are included in the millionaire category, their standing is most often a result of increased income, which is not the same as increased wealth. Moreover, none of the wealthiest black entertainers and athletes appear on the Forbes list of the wealthiest 500. And again, this book was written a long time ago, but what I think the bar there is a result of increased income.
Right. So they just get more money coming in.
It
doesn't mean they're diversifying and putting their money in certain places.
And they're not, and that doesn't mean they're creating that generational wealth that they can pass down from generation to generation. And he has two charts here that basically compares white wealth and ownership to black wealth and ownership. So he says it says the total net worth, there's different categories, right? The total net worth of black people compared to white people is about 26, for black people it's about 268,000. And white people it's about 8.8 million. 3,300% greater than black people. And then he lists a bunch of different industries and sectors where, you know, white people just dominate economically. So he talks about financial institutions. So 21,000 for black people compared to white people, 1.2 million. Stocks and mutual funds, 2,900 for black people, 592,000 for white people.
That's a 20,000% greater. 20,000%? Bruh.
So when we talk about the wealth disparity, yeah, I'm sure we all know black people that have money and are doing well. But when we're literally comparing the black race to the white race, and we're including everybody, that the disparity is huge, right? Equity in business, 10,000 roughly, 10,500 roughly, 789,000, a 7,500, which is 7,500% greater than black people.
Equity in homes, 181,000 versus 3.7 million, and over 2,000% greater than black. Wow.
Bro.
So in every section of you know, accumulating wealth, we're thousands of percent behind.
Yeah.
Thousands. And you could say, oh, well, you know, Michael Jordan, Jay-Z, Dr. Dre, there's billionaires, there's rich black people, but that's just 1, 2, or 3.
Yep.
You know, like they said, an individual can make it, but the group as a collective, as a collective, us moving forward and getting ourselves from the bottom of the totem pole to the top.
Right. And then he says, to piggyback off of that, he says, in comparison, nearly 50% of black America has a net worth approaching zero because its debts negate any property or assets they can pass on to their offspring. So that goes back to the conversation of A, we don't spend our dollars within the community, and B, we consume, we're earners, we make money, but we consume liabilities, and we get in debt, and we pay astronomical amounts of interest on credit cards and loans and different things like this, on cars, right? On depreciating things, depreciating assets. We're buying too many liabilities when we should be investing in assets.
And, you know, and a part of that, like you said, that's education. You know, we grew up, I remember growing up, you just wanted a fly car. Yeah. It's like, yo, I want to have a fly car. I want the fresh gear. I want the chain. Like, But that was the culture. But the culture led us to purchasing liabilities. And then once you got them, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the hole. Now I gotta keep earning.
Right.
Just to maintain this.
Right.
So this money that I accumulated, it's not making me more money. It's making me pay more money.
And not only that, when I pass, right, if I don't have a life insurance, I'm only passing on
My debt.
this debt. I'm not passing any wealth. I'm not passing any assets on. I'm literally passing a bunch of liabilities. And I'm now a burden for my family and the generations to come.
Well, you know, a lot of people, you know, when they have family members pass, you know, obviously when a family member passes, it's a stressful time. You know, your heart hurts, you know, for the loved one. But a lot of black families struggle because, all right, well, now their debt's passed on, but now I got to pay for the funeral. Now I got to buy a casket. Now I got to do this. And it's like, yo, I don't have the money to do all this.
Right.
And it's like it starts right when life ends, debt. Boom, passed on.
Right.
Even a funeral is like $10,000.
Yeah, funerals are expensive.
Most people don't have $10,000 to just spend because somebody died.
Funerals are expensive,
especially in the black community.
Right.
You know, so
1,000%.
It just goes to show you from the beginning to the end, we've been this constant cycle of liability and debt.
Yeah.
That this book, Powernomics, is trying to get us out of collectively.
Right. And again, we're just kind of going over the first chapter. He does dive into the plans and what needs to be done and what infrastructures need to be created to kind of get us out of this situation that we're in. But in the first chapter, he plainly and directly explains what situation we're facing. Right. And he also talks about what I find interesting. He talks about the monopoly that white people have over very important institutions like the media outlets, whether it be TV, whether it be,
news, entertainment,
newspapers, entertainment, because that's how you're able to speak to your masses, people and inform your people and educate your people and look out for the best and push your people's agenda, right? So if we don't have black people that that own radio stations, that own newspapers, that own TV stations, it makes it very difficult to support our communities and educate our communities.
Right. And like you said before, this book was written, over 20 years ago. Today, we kind of do have that power now.
We have Revolt.
We have
shout out to Puff.
right. We got Revolt.
Shout out to
but
Puff.
Also our podcast. Now we can put ourselves out there and talk about these things, which before 20 years ago we couldn't.
Right.
But 1,000%. Still, even though with our platform, we're just one cog in this whole machine, and we need major platforms like a Revolt TV.
And we're not mass media at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
We would love to be, but we're not. So we need black-owned companies, media companies, on a mass scale that can speak to our people, that can educate our people, that can inform our people and look out for our people. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, if we have those outlets also have to be scared not to speak black. Because at the end of the day, it's to us.
Right.
I think the Nation of Islam, they had a magazine or a newspaper back in the day, and they spoke black to their people. Like, hell, this is our situation with us, and this is how we're going to operate in society around these other groups.
Right. And what he talks, and it goes hand in hand with just black ownership and owning businesses, right? Because he says, even if you have a platform, right, a mass media platform that is owned by black people and is for the community, and you do speak about kind of issues concerning race or you're in support of black people, if you don't have enough black businesses to give advertising dollars, then it's your company's not sustainable. because a lot of media companies thrive off of advertising dollars. So if we're on our platforms and we're talking about racism and we're talking about police brutality and we're talking about a lot of different black issues, these white companies are not going to invest their white dollars, advertising dollars,
talking about them in a negative light. They're not going to support that.
So that's where the ownership and, you know, creating that ecosystem comes into play.
And you hit it right there, ecosystem. We need to create our own ecosystem.
1,000%.
You know, if this person's over here selling apparel, this person over here is selling a service, a plumbing service, or this person is, you know, works on cars, or we all have to network with each other. And hey, well, if this is the product or service you need, go to them. Them go to you. And we just gotta, like we said in the beginning of the episode, circulate our dollars within us because we're gonna make ourselves rich.
Right.
I think they said black people per year we make about $1 trillion, something like that.
Something like that.
$3 trillion we accumulate in a year, and we literally damn near spend that whole thing right back.
So imagine if we kept that $3 trillion in our community
and kept it in our companies and our businesses.
Right.
So now our companies and businesses are coming up, and we're slightly kind of bringing them down. The bigger companies that we've, you know, continually shop at and spend our dollars at. We're kind of taking our 13% of our wealth out of their pockets and putting it back in our pockets.
1,000%.
And ultimately, that's what we want to do. You know, for the long run. So I think, you know, this is, like you said, this is chapter 1, and I believe it's about 8 chapters total. And, you know, we'll have, you know, more episodes in the future, just breaking down each chapter, breaking down, you know, what Dr. Claude Anderson, I guess, prescribes to, you know, the plan to get us out of the bottom of the totem pole.
Right. Yeah. Because we are, as much as we see people, you know, winning in different areas of, you know, business and capitalism and economics, as a race of people, we are at the bottom. And I think we have to realize that. We don't have to live in that reality, but we have to know that's just a plain fact. And we have to know that, you know, ownership, financial literacy, investing, and ultimately acquiring assets over liabilities, and supporting each other, keeping our dollars within our community is the only way we can, you know, advance the black race.
Literally the only way.
It's literally the only way.
Literally the only way. You know, we need each other. You know, we need to be on code. We need to be lock in step with each other, you know, from here on out.
We gotta pull our resources together. We have to occupy some of these spaces, some of these pre-existing monopolies, the media spaces, the political spaces, the judicial spaces, and we just got to come together, support each other, and, you know, keep thriving and striving.
Yes, most definitely. And appreciate that. You know, that's chapter 1.
That's chapter 1 of Powernomics, a very powerful book. If you haven't heard of it, or if you have, regardless, just pick yourself up a copy, read it, dive in, read it with us. There's a lot of jewels, a lot of gems in here, and you know, I can't steer you wrong. So, Powernomics, we're going to be diving into it.
Yeah, definitely. If you guys could pick it up, read it with us as we go through each chapter, and we do a video on it. You know, write in the comments to things we would like for us to mention in the book, in each chapter. For sure.
And that's episode 10.
That's right.
We did it, 10. Man. We made it.
There we go.
We made it, man.
Double digits.
Yes, sir. Let's keep going. Let's keep thriving and striving. And thank y'all for riding with us thus far. 10 episodes strong and many more to come. And like my man Chuck said, let us know in the comments, DMs, whatever the case is, what y'all want us to touch on, what y'all want us to talk about. This platform is for y'all.
Episode 10. We out of here.
Peace.